Hello, I'm Jules Griffin. I'm a member of the Department of Biochemistry at the University of Cambridge and also a member of the Medical Research Council Human Nutrition Research Unit here in Cambridge.
I'm Tom Ashmore. I'm a final year PhD student in biochemistry as well, and also physiology, development and neuroscience.
And we're here to tell you a bit about an expedition that we're about to depart on called Xtreme Everest 2, where we'll be travelling to Everest Base Camp, taking part in various studies and also sampling from other volunteers in order to understand how we adapt to high altitude.
Yeah, so I guess particularly interested in from an intensive care point of view. The study is based around a medical core of doctors who are interested in looking at how people adapt to high altitude. Specifically, the fact that there's very little oxygen around at high altitude, and this is a key factor in intensive care medicine. So people in intensive care are often very lacking in oxygen, and one of the first things that happens when they go into intensive care is they're given an oxygen mask, as I'm probably aware. So more specifically though, Jules and I are scientists and we're interested in a bit more specific problems, and I'm funded by the British Heart Foundation, so I'm interested in heart failure basically. And in heart failure, your heart becomes hypoxic, that is, it has too little oxygen around to continue pumping blood around the body, and as a result all of your tissues suffer because the heart pumps the blood that supplies the oxygen. And so rather than taking heart biopsies at high altitude, which you probably can't do, we're going to look at skeletal muscle. So often in heart failure patients, they're characterised by very chronic muscle fatigue, and we're interested in looking at how metabolism is changed at high altitude and how this might be down to the kind of hypoxia that we're experiencing.
I've got an interest in diabetes and obesity, and one of the angles that we're particularly interested in sort of monitoring in the individuals that are going up to Everest Base Camp are something called negative energy expenditure. So most of the people that I see that have obesity or overweight are actually in something what we describe as positive energy expenditure, where they consume more food than in terms of calories than the energy than they use up during the day. The interesting thing for the individuals in Xtreme Everest 2 is that this situation will be reversed. So we won't be consuming as many calories as we need in terms of the energy that we expend. So we'll be mobilising some of our fat stores, and we'll be able to see sort of how the body responds to that and how the body was actually designed to do this. Another area that we're interested in looking at is called cachexia. So certain diseases, for example pancreatic cancer and COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, one of the big problems with those diseases is a process called cachexia, where the muscles waste, and it's particularly a problem if it's the muscles that hold together the rib cage. So as a result, people can't breathe very easily. What will happen during Xtreme Everest 2 is, as our energy expenditure increases, we may actually call on our proteins that make up our muscle, break down some of these proteins into amino acids, and we'll be able to experience a mild form of this cachexia during the process. So we're hoping to follow this using mass spectrometry and NMR spectroscopy to analyse the blood plasma samples that are being taken.
And I guess as a final interest for us both, we're interested in looking at how diet might affect these things, and specifically nitrate biology. These are chemicals that are found in most dark green vegetables, things like beetroot, anything with a really dark colour is quite often nitrate. And there's a lot of evidence out that people with a high circulating nitrate, it may actually be beneficial when they go up to high altitude. And we're interested in correlating how people cope with high altitude and their sort of dietary nitrate metabolism and how it's affected in their bloodstream and things like that.
So we're about to head off in a week's time. I think next time we plan to do this will be in Kathmandu, and then from Kathmandu we fly up to a place called Lukla, and then we're going to hike up to Everest Base Camp after that. So we're hoping to make a few more of these video diaries along the way. Thanks very much, and see you in Kathmandu.